August 2nd, 1944, midnight. A lone American aircraft circled over central Serbia, German-occupied territory. A signal fire burned below in a mountain meadow near the village. Pilot spotted it, made his approach. 3 figures jumped into darkness. Parachutes opened, disappeared into the trees. Captain George Mussolini, 29 years old, Serbian-American. Born in New York, raised in Pennsylvania. Played college football at Pittsburgh, national champions, 1937. Then professional football, Chicago, St. Louis, Pittsburgh. Big guy, tough, spoke fluent Serbian. Office of Strategic Services, the OSS, America's wartime intelligence agency, predecessor to the CIA. Master Sergeant Michael Rajacic, radio operator, also Serbian-American. Also spoke the language. Young, resourceful, expert with Morse code and shortwave transmitters. Specialist Arthur Jibilian, 21 years old, called Jibby by everyone. Communications expert, Lebanese-American from Ohio. Didn't speak Serbian. Didn't matter. His job was keeping radio contact with Allied headquarters in Bari, Italy, 300 miles away across the Adriatic Sea. They landed hard in rough terrain, gathered their equipment, parachutes, radio gear, weapons, medical supplies. Within minutes, figures emerged from the forest. Armed men, bearded, worn uniforms. Chetniks, Serbian guerrilla fighters loyal to General Dražan Mihailović. The Americans were taken to a farmhouse. Mihailović was waiting. 51 years old, gray beard, sharp eyes. Former Royal Yugoslav Army colonel, now commander of the Chetnik resistance, fighting Germans since Yugoslavia fell in 1941. 3 years of brutal occupation. His men controlled pockets of Serbian countryside. The Germans controlled the cities, roads, and rail lines. Mihailović spoke through an interpreter. "Your men are safe, all of them. We have done everything possible." Mussolini looked around the room. "How many?" 250, maybe more. Scattered across the hills. We are gathering them here. 250 American airmen, shot down over Yugoslavia, rescued by Serbian peasants and Chetnik fighters, hidden from German patrols for weeks, some for months, waiting for extraction, waiting to go home. This was Operation Halyard, the largest rescue of Allied airmen in World War II history, and it almost didn't happen. 6 weeks earlier, late June 1944, 15th Air Force Headquarters, Bari, Italy. Lieutenant Colonel George Krager reviewed intelligence reports. American bombers had been flying missions over Romania for months, targeting Ploiesti oil fields, Hitler's primary fuel source. The raids were devastating Nazi petroleum production, but the cost was staggering. Ploiesti was 1,500 miles round trip from Italy. The route crossed Yugoslavia, German-occupied, crawling with anti-aircraft batteries and Luftwaffe fighters. Dozens of American bombers were being shot down every week. B-24 Liberators, B-17 Flying Fortresses. Each carried 10 crew members, pilots, navigators, bombardiers, gunners, engineers. When a plane went down, survivors bailed out. If they survived the jump. If their parachutes opened. If they weren't shot during descent. They landed in enemy territory. The Germans usually captured them within hours, sent them to POW camps, Stalag Luft 3, Stalag 17B. If they were lucky. If they weren't, local collaborators turned them over to the Gestapo, or SS units executed them on site. Reprisal for bombing German cities. But intelligence was receiving reports, coded messages from occupied Yugoslavia. American airmen were being hidden by local Serbs, dozens of them, maybe more, protected by Chetnik forces, General Mihailović's men. The problem was political. Britain had supported Mihailović early in the war, organizing and leading liaison officers, weapons, for rescuing supplies, Allied personnel. But by 1944, for demonstrating courage British and policy loyalty had shifted. The award
Winston
was classified,
Churchill now backed
secret,
Josip Broz Tito,
kept hidden for 20
communist
years.
partisan leader.
American government
Croatian,
didn't want
Moscow
to offend
trained.
Yugoslavia's communist
The British
regime.
believed Tito was fighting
Didn't want to
Germans
anger
more
Tito.
aggressively than Mihailovich.
So they honored a hero
Churchill
in
cut off
silence,
support to the Chetniks,
gave him a medal no
ordered
one could
British
see,
missions withdrawn,
recognition
pressured
no one
America
could
to
acknowledge.
do the same.
Not until
Washington followed London's
1967
lead.
was the award
President
made
Roosevelt
public.
trusted Churchill's
Richard
judgment
Feldman
on
and
Balkan
other
affairs.
rescued airmen attended
American
the ceremony.
liaison officers were pulled out of
Finally,
Milovich's
21
territory
years
in May
after
1944.
Milovich's execution,
The general was left
finally
isolated.
his heroism
No
was
Allied
recognized.
support.
His
No
sacrifice
weapons.
acknowledged,
No recognition.
his memory honored.
Just his men
But Serbia
and the Serbian
still
peasants
suffered.
who supported him.
The villages
But the
that
downed
helped,
American airmen
the
were
families
still there,
that risked everything,
hidden in Serbian
they
villages,
received nothing.
waiting for
No
rescue.
compensation,
The 15th
no
Air
recognition,
Force couldn't abandon
no
them.
thanks from American
Someone
government.
had to go in.
Just memories, and the knowledge that they did the right thing, even when it cost them everything. In 2015, Serbian courts annulled Mihailovich's conviction, declared the 1946 trial unfair, political, a communist show trial with predetermined verdict. The judge emphasized they weren't ruling on whether Mihailovich was a war criminal, only that he didn't receive fair trial. But everyone knew the truth. He wasn't a criminal. He was a hero, murdered for saving Allied lives. Today, monuments stand in Serbia. Pranjani, Boljanic, Kočeljeva, commemorating Operation Halyard, honoring the villagers, the Chetniks, the OSS agents, the pilots who risked everything to evacuate airmen from behind enemy lines. American veterans visit, elderly now, in their 90s, some in wheelchairs. They come to Serbia, to the villages where they hid, to the fields where they were rescued. They hug elderly Serbs.
Grandchildren of the families who saved them cry together, remember together. 75 years later, still grateful, still loyal, still brothers. George Musalin returned to America after the war, continued intelligence work, never forgot Serbia, died in 1987, buried with honors. His legacy? 512 lives saved, Operation Halyard, the mission he commanded, the Americans he brought home. Arthur Jabilian, the radio operator, the youngest member, returned to Ohio, lived quiet life, Silver Star recipient, died in 2007, remembered as hero, the man who guided planes through darkness, who kept radio contact, who made evacuation possible. George Voinovich, the mastermind, the coordinator, returned to New York after the war, worked for airline companies, mild-mannered businessman. Neighbors never knew he'd organized history's largest airman rescue. Never bragged, never sought attention. Died in 2012, age 96. Bronze Star, Legion of Merit. Remembered by those who knew the truth. And the rescued airmen. 512 men. They lived, came home, raised families, built careers, lived full lives. Because Serbian peasants shared bread they didn't have. Because Chetnik fighters risked execution. Because General Mihailovich chose honor over safety. Operation Halyard remains mostly forgotten, not taught in schools, not mentioned in most World War II histories, overshadowed by D-Day, Stalingrad, the atomic bomb. But to 512 men, and their children, and grandchildren, and great-grandchildren, it was everything. Because without Operation Halyard, those men would have died, captured, executed, lost. Their families would never have existed. Thousands of descendants alive today because Serbian villagers chose courage, because American agents chose duty, because Allied governments chose rescue over politics, at least for those 6 months. This is the story they want you to remember, not just the military operation, not just the statistics, but the humanity, the generosity, the sacrifice. Serbian families with nothing giving everything. American agents risking everything to bring boys home. Allied pilots landing in impossible conditions to save lives. 512 men walked out of enemy territory alive, against impossible odds, through brutal occupation, because some people still believed in doing the right thing, even when it cost them their lives, even when history would forget, even when the world would betray them. That is Operation Halyard,
the greatest rescue mission of World War II, the forgotten miracle, the story that must never be forgotten. If this story of courage and sacrifice moved you, we'd be honored if you'd like this video and share it with someone who appreciates real history. These stories matter. These heroes deserve to be remembered. Subscribe and turn on notifications so you never miss our next documentary about the untold stories of World War II. Stories of ordinary people who did extraordinary things. Stories that changed history. And in the comments, tell us, do you have family members who served in World War II? Do you know anyone who was part of Operation Halyard? We'd love to hear their stories. Let's keep these memories alive together. Thank you for watching, and thank you for remembering.